Mesdames, un, deux, merci pour votre attention. Mesdames, Messieurs, bonsoir. Merci d'être là donc, pour ce panel exceptionnel sur le thème de l'afroféminisme et des arts numériques. Je vous accueille au Palais des Beaux-Arts au nom de l'Africadesque, du Palais des Beaux-Arts et de son directeur artistique Paul Dujardin. Nous sommes très très heureux donc d'organiser ce débat en partenariat avec donc le groupe SND et dans le cadre de l'Africa Week 2018. Je vous présente donc nos invités et speakers. Madame Oulimata Gueye, qui modérera le débat de Ramram, voilà. Madame Marion Louis-Grand Silla, de Kurt-Yosan à Dakar. Docteur Akati Kaziani, de Donest et Iva Fund à Nairobi. Et Madame Shepchumba, fondatrice de African Digital Art à Nairobi. Merci à toutes les quatre d'être là. C'est un grand moment. Nous sommes vraiment très, très, très heureuses de votre présence. Nous savons que voilà, la soirée va être importante. Je voudrais rappeler que l'Africadesque de BOZAR organise régulièrement des événements artistiques voilà, d'intérêt et que n'hésitez pas à aller sur notre site, à vous inscrire aussi à notre newsletter pour recevoir toutes les informations. D'ici la fin de l'année, il y aura d'autres très beaux événements, des débats, des rencontres, des concerts et puis un festival en février. Donc, merci encore pour votre présence. Merci à tous nos partenaires. Le débat donc, est en direct, live streamé. Très bon débat. Je laisse la parole à Dr Akati Kaziani pour nous présenter donc, le film avec lequel nous allons ouvrir le débat. Et donc, We Need Prayers, This One Went to Market. Merci Akati de nous présenter ce film.
Thank you. I don't speak French, so
please switch. Oui.
All of that.
Yes, yes. Please switch in English. And yes, I just want to remind you that there are some translators. So if you want just to pick up a casque, don't hesitate. Feel free to pick up a casque because they will be French and English during the panel, during the debate.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So we're going to screen one of our films. It's called, as she said, We Need Prayers. This one went to market. It's the second in an 8-part anthology web series that we did over end of last year and early this year. It's available on Facebook. This particular episode looks at a woman who is an artist, and we follow her hustle in Afro-futurism and see how far she would go for her hustle and how far her hustle takes her. We also would like you to know that this film was shot entirely using an iPhone 7, as was the entire series. So you could, watch the series just to see what that looks like. I hope you enjoy, and we'll talk more about it afterwards.
Yeah. Unajua umse Aaron.
Oh, Aaron a quote.
Yes. Umse si anakanga hizi mavitu kwa kichwa. Yes, ndio Afro-futurism.
But he makes these things out of trash. How is that futuristic?
Me, I don't know. Nilikutana naye akanisho, aliambiwa ati yake ni Afro-futurism na wase wanabuy. Ukiambiwa watu wanalipa $3,000 vitu zako utauliza.
I don't know, but may should go these things. If you show people here these photos, they'll look at you like you're mad.
Yeah, because if my mom saw me now.
How will you explain if you asked?
By my folks.
No, by these art people.
These ones you just use words like identity, reflection. Unatumia tu words kama hapa tunaweza tumia kuwa unplugged, detachment.
Detachment, how?
I don't know, like here, if this series works, unatumia tu, unasema ati like Africans are losing their social connections while making new connections, and then, you know, unaongea ma stories are mobile penetration, and like in this case, I can say penetration has caused like
segregation.
Segregation, yeah, exactly. Hey, hapa tu, niko story mob. Habu nipitishe hizo nini?
No problem. This one?
Yes, easy shade sasa.
Now how will you see with those ones?
See, I'm singing to the future, nini. Habu nivalishe to make sure makeup on.
Slim back.
Bus.
Sawa kabisa.
Yes. Wait. Lazima nieke Africa face. Unajua hizi ma struggles nini.
Oh, like you swam to Europe.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, now seriously.
Okay, I'm ready. Chukua haraka kabla yanguke.
Okay.
I named this piece Mteja Hapatikani, which is Swahili for the subscriber cannot be reached. In Kenya, if you call someone, this is the message that you get when they're like unavailable, unreachable, you can't connect. And I thought this would be an interesting play on what's happening in Africa right now with connectivity and disconnecting. You know, with all the mobile penetration that's happening right now, you would think that it would bring people together, but it's not. It's just causing separation, segregation, isolation, and desolation. As you can see, I'm looking to something, but you would wonder, are my eyes obscured or am I seeing clearly into an African future that is just full of disconnection? What is the reality for us? What is the future for us Africans? Is it connection? Separation?
un micro.
Alors, bonsoir à tous et bonsoir à toutes. Merci à BOZAR et à Africades pour cette invitation. Merci à Yoko Mansa pour avoir pensé et accompagné cette programmation. Merci à Marion, Louis Grand-Silla, merci à Shep Shumba, merci Dr Akati Kaziani. C'est un immense plaisir et honneur que vous soyez là. D'avoir fait ce trajet, de venir de Nairobi et de Dakar. Merci infiniment. C'est voilà, moi personnellement, je suis aussi très heureuse et c'est un honneur pour moi de vous accompagner. Alors, donc on va passer, je vais vous passer la parole dans les minutes qui suivent, mais auparavant, on va peut-être immédiatement rebondir sur le film. Do you need? Non? La vidéo nous a mise de bonne humeur et c'est un bonheur de commencer comme ça. Alors, Dr Akati Kaziani, nous avons des feuilles de salle, je ne sais pas si vous les avez toutes prises, qui présentent de manière un petit peu plus détaillée les biographies de nos intervenantes. Donc, en 2 mots, pour présenter chacune des intervenantes. Dr Akati Kaziani est kenyane, vous l'aurez compris, auteure et membre de Nest Collective. Elle travaille sur la narration, sur la photographie et justement dans ces narrations, elle s'intéresse vivement à la présence et à la participation des femmes dans les cultures et les spiritualités africaines, ainsi qu'aux influences réciproques entre famille et communauté. Vous l'aurez aussi compris, Dr Akati est un docteur, donc elle est titulaire d'un master en sciences et santé publique, en économie de la santé, et a eu, avant d'intégrer le collectif Nest, une longue expérience de santé et dans le secteur privé, le secteur public. Alors, Dr Kaziani, this light and very humoristic video is showing essentially women. So can we say that it's a feminist video?
We can. You can certainly say that. I mean, you can decide to say that the very selection of female characters is a feminist act, putting them as protagonists and as the only characters. We didn't actually see a male figure in the film, and that could be taken as a feminist act. Was it our intention? Was it a very deliberate choice? It was deliberate to center female characters. It was interesting for us because the Afro-futurist space and the artistic space in Kenya is dominated by male figures. So we do try to make an effort to put female figures in our work and put them front and center. But our focus when we were making this film was not to forward a feminist message or a feminist agenda, but we certainly would not complain if it's taken up. Yeah.
And another question. So this we talked yesterday about the title of the series. We Need Prayer. This one went to the market. So We Need Prayer is a nice title. So we wanted to know a little bit more about how to choose this title.
We chose it because it's something we say a lot back home. I know there's some Kenyans in the audience. They can they can attest that whenever you meet something that's absurd, that's difficult, that just needs you to take a breath and a moment, even the most atheist person says, this country, what we need is prayers. We just need some sort of divine cosmic intervention because left to our own devices, we can really deteriorate. So the anthology is entitled We Need Prayers, and when you watch it, you'll see that it looks at various happenings, various events. It's set in an urban setting. It's basically Nairobi, and we try to look at Nairobi as this sort of micro dystopia, and we look at the cruelties that we enact on each other, the cruelties that we have to endure to survive, and that's why we thought the title was very apt, because the way to survive in our city, in our country, in our reality, is through asking for some sort of help from a larger, bigger, more powerful body, because some things we feel are completely out of our hands. The second part of the title is This One Went to Market. That's taken from a nursery rhyme, the one about the pigs, the three little pigs. So the one who this little piggy went to market, we remembered that most people think the pig is going to shop or to visit the market, but it's unlikely that piglet is coming back from the market. So we thought it was an interesting take on the agency of an artist in the marketplace, where you may be going thinking that you are a seller, but you end up being the commodity. Yes.
Thank you very much. Now I let you start your presentation.
Okay. Okay.
So can off. Super.
Super. Okay. So I'm happy to be here this evening. I'm grateful to BOZAR for the opportunity to be here with these wonderful artists and creators, and with this enthusiastic and lovely audience. So our topic, I got this email like 2 months ago. And we said we want to come together, we want to discuss Afro-cyber feminisms. And the first thing that went through my mind is, what? And so I showed the email around the office, and there were some echoing, what? And but we took up the challenge, and I'm able to make this presentation because I work with an amazing group of people that I'll start by telling you about before going into the evening's discussion. This is my team. That's me in the middle beaming, because I like them so much. I'll make a brief introduction of each of them. The lady at the left, that end, that's Olivia. She's our social media manager. She's also an amazing vocalist. You can hear her on our album. Next to her at the back is Maureen, our finance manager. She's also part of our art department. Beaming above me is George Gashara. He's one of our founding members. Next to him is Dr. Njoki Ngumi, who I've had a long friendship with, who went med school together. She's an amazing feminist, performing artist, and moderator. And at this other end is Noel, our youngest member. He's our director of photography, so he's responsible for the film you just watched and the amazing visuals therein. If we come down to the next row and go in the other direction, this lady with the braids is Njeri. She's our producer. She's also a DJ and a vocalist as well. Next to her is Kendi, DJ Kashi. She's an amazing financial genius. She keeps us afloat. That's me kind of just hanging out with cool people. Hope is our accountant. She helps out with sound. Then the bottom row is Jim Chuchu, another founding member. He's an amazing filmmaker, photographer. In the middle is Sunny Dolat. He's a creative strategist. He's brilliant with fashion. And at this end is Maz Masai. He's a musician, DJ, sound producer. So this is our team. We kind of hang out in Nairobi together, and we do cool things. That's my shameless plug. Please follow all our social media accounts. Okay, so as I begin with a brief introduction to the Nest Collective, we started in 2012, initially as a co-working space, where our target was misfits. So we looked into the town and we saw there are some people who are having difficulties fitting in the regular art spaces. They're not formal enough. They're not fitting within the lines enough, but they're still doing really great work, and they're demanding things from their audience. They're demanding engagement. They're demanding deep thought. And should that then mean that they don't have a place to work? And we said no. So we just came together, brought a space, and said, hey guys, come. You can work here, you can rehearse here, you can have your performances here, and it was a really wonderful time, and we formed really great networks, both inside and outside Nairobi, with artists and with other people and thinkers in the art space. So eventually we decided, hey, this is something we could do ourselves. So we started making our own work. And we've used various media. This is our work in fashion. We have a book. We have digital lookbooks. And To Catch a Dream is a short film. That's a fashion film, but it actually has like a storyline. We've done photography and literature. Our most controversial work is this in the middle, Stories of Our Lives, Queer Kenyan Narratives. We collected the stories of queer Kenyans across the country. We just went and interviewed them, told them, tell us about what you think, what you dream, what your lives are about, what do you think about religion, how do you see yourself forming a family, and we put them together in a book. Following that, we created an anthology film series called Stories of Our Lives as well, and it was banned. So a lot of Kenyans haven't been able to see it at home, but it's traveled a lot. It's traveled more than we have, and it's one of the works we're most proud about. Following that film, we've also done. Thank you. So we've done a film project every year since then. Pardon. So we did Tuko Macho, which is a really interesting series about vigilante justice in Nairobi. We've done a VR film called Let This Be a Warning. And then we've done We Need Prayers. And we've also worked with music. So we had a radio project for a while. We did Legacy, which was a really cool project where we reimagined Kenyan classics and gave them a new twist. And most recently, we've done Sweet and Sour, which is our first studio album. It's on iTunes and Spotify. So yeah, check it out. We're really proud of it. So one thing that we like to talk about is our process is collaborative. When you look at that picture, you can see there's quite a number of us. And we make decisions together. We make as many decisions as possible together regarding our work, regarding our process, regarding the direction in which we want to go. So what that has taught us is that when we have all these people in a room, each person comes with their own history, their own experiences, their decisions, their politics, and we have to find a way for these views and knowledge and skills and passion to overlap, and we need to see where do these things converge and where is it okay for them to converge. So that is how we work together and produce our work. So, are we feminist? These are the women of our works. Mostly, I think these are all film. Yes, these are all film. So, just a minute. We keep a deliberate gender lens on our characters, and we remain cognizant of how their gender, their sexuality, their presentation allows them to move in the world, and also the ways in which it hinders them from moving in the world. And we like to create fully realized human people. So before we begin our work, we sit down and we say, who is this character? Where did she come from? Who is her mother? Does she have a family? Does she want children? What is her job? Is she good at it? And as soon as you understand who a person is, you're able to dress them, you're able to color them in, you're able to move them through the narrative in an honest way. And one of the things that we say very frequently in our writer's room, you'll always hear someone yell out, "She would never do that." So these people become real to us, and we understand them at a very fundamental level. And we do that because we want our work to center people who make sense in the environment that they have been put in. And this goes for men as well. So our women are powerful, our women are flawed, our men are as well, and we also understand our men as products of their environment and victims of it. So where they may visit cruelty on someone, we understand where that may come from. The other thing we try to do is to imagine who would these people be in a world that offered them care. What are the changes that we would have to make in their environment to make them better people, or to prevent them from doing these things that we are considering cruel or unusual. On to tonight's discussion. So Afrofeminism, it's an ideology, it's a politic, it's a movement, and it's covering the conditions of the African woman, both at home on the continent, in the diaspora. And we consider this massive work because, as we all know, Africa is not a monolith, and even a country in Africa is not a monolith, and my experience will differ very greatly from other women in my country. And as such, we wonder, how can one movement be a tent for a woman on the continent, a woman in the diaspora, a first-generation immigrant, a next-generation immigrant, an old woman, a young woman, and we want a movement that covers all these things. At the same time, Afrofeminism has to work in concert and in conflict with other movements that are dealing with rights and realities of Black women, of Black people, of Africans, and there's room for communication and conflict and for growth. So the question that we have is, how does a movement reach its entire audience when that audience is so dispersed by geography, by time, by experience, by culture? These are amazing scholars. They generate the language, the philosophies, the foundation of Afrofeminism as a philosophy. And we cannot dismiss them at all. But what we're going to talk about tonight is how art and artists take the work that they do and communicate it to a wider audience who may not have access to academia. So digital art. Who knows what digital art is? Yeah? Sorry, I couldn't see very well. Could you do that again? Yeah, okay, so not many people are comfortable with the idea of digital art. Some people are very comfortable with the idea. We came up with a sort of basic definition. Jeptrumba will let me know if I missed anything. So when you have art that is generated using digital means, or that uses digital means in its transmission, publication, dissemination, then you're working with digital art. Am I good? Because that would have ended my presentation right there. So this encompasses so many things. Most of the things I have up here are visual art, and I think that's what a lot of people associate with digital art. But we're talking about music, we're talking about visualizations, photography, illustrations, video games. All these things are digital art, and a virtual reality, augmented reality. When people started using tech to make art, there was a lot of complaint that this is not real art. You're not actually using, your skills and your talent. You're using a machine. So how can it be qualified as real art? But I mean, as you can see from these are just representations. The field has grown. It's grown in leaps and bounds. People have improved their skills, and we are now at a point where that discussion should be over, right? This is art. It's as much art as what we dig up in archaeology. It's as much art as what is up in the museums. It is up in museums now. So now that we have established that it is art, then how do we use it as we have used other forms of art to communicate, to pass messages, and to fight for movements? So mainstream media holds a monopoly on mainstream messages, should we say, right? So the things that your government wants you to know, the things that we want children to learn, mainstream media holds a monopoly on that. What we like about digital art and digital art spaces is that it's a space similar to what we had thought of when we began. It's a place where misfits can thrive, where they can take center stage, because with sort of minimal access, we'll discuss that. If you have a computer, if you have electricity, if you have an internet connection and you have an idea, you can create your own platform, you can find an audience, and you can pass your message. The other thing we like about digital art is that, as with other forms of art, the pieces themselves are not the end. What is also important to us is the artists, the environment in which the artists create and publish their art, and the communities that are built around them. So the online space allows us to build community in a new way, where the barriers between artist and audience are blurred, and it's much simpler to engage with your favorite artist. You can meet them in a comment section. You can meet them in an AMA. You can meet them on a video chat and have a very direct conversation. You don't have to prepare. You don't have to prepare a speech. They don't have to be ready for anything. They can really speak from the heart, and that makes the conversations very immediate, very informal, very one-on-one, but also very accessible. And we think this is such a feminist act of decentering historical centers of power. So you don't have to go to a big museum, to meet your artist. You don't need to go to a big university to learn how to do these things. This openness of discourse mainly is a good thing. It can also be a bad thing. So the loss of anonymity and that proximity to artists, of course, opens them up to attacks and violence. But it's also possible for an audience to demand of an artist what the artist is not. Like we saw in our film, it worked out for her. It did. But I mean, we know of incidences where, audiences say, we want our artist to be this way and that way. And we want their work to be this way and that way, rather than what the artists themselves would like to do. But we like to focus on the positive. So what we like about the borderlessness of digital art is how it allows for new creation. So you have artists going to their audience and asking, say, hey, would you guys like to see this? Would you guys like me to do that? And we also have the audiences taking the art themselves and saying, this work was great for me, I'd like it to continue. And you start your fan fiction. Or this work was great for me, but I would have loved it to be more diverse. So you rewrite it and you put in, a person of color, you put in queer characters, you put in people who have disability, who have mental health issues, who are generally left out of dominant conversations. And this way you're able to see people who represent you, or who represent things that are interesting to you in a dominant space, front and center, fully human. They're not there as tropes, they're not there as punchlines, they're not there as side issues, you can really center them. So I, for one, I'm a huge fan of fan art and fan fiction. So those are the positives. One of the negatives is that the digital space and the tech space is, as many spaces are in their early stages, it's a white space. It's a wealthy space. It's a male-dominated space. This is a list I got from the Wikipedia page, so you can can fault me for my sourcing, but yes, but. The title of the list I got these names was leading theorists and historians of digital art. And as you can see, everyone here is European or American, is white. So again, I'm sitting next to one young black African pioneer of digital art, but she's not gonna get the same sort of limelight these older gentlemen may be getting, and unfortunately, no. I mean, I'm going to edit the Wikipedia page, definitely. Yeah, I'm gonna do it and put her on it. But that's the kind of thing we have to do after this meeting. We have to go in and say, these are not the only people who know what digital art is. These are not the only people who can teach us things and who can forward the movement. And beyond this, we have to think, what is the access to the things we've called basic inputs to digital art? So access to electricity, to education, to internet. Those are things that are affected by age, by gender, by socioeconomic status. The same things that feminism and Afrofeminism has to discuss and deal with on a regular basis. So one way digital art addresses this is it's a very open space in that self-teaching is possible, self-publishing is possible. The communities are quite friendly, and they offer instructional videos, they offer tutorials, all this stuff is free and online, and those are very very African and very feminist practices that break down these barriers. Speaking again of that openness, it's it's possible and regular that these artists get exploited because you put out your work, you just want to be appreciated. Someone else sees it, it's appropriated. Someone else sees it, it's stolen. Someone may come and say, I'd like to buy it, but then they want to pay you their price, not your price. And a lot of young female artists, a lot of self-taught artists who are out on the internet do not have the soft skills to negotiate, to monetize these things, and it's very easy to be taken advantage of. And that's unfortunate because at the same time, this openness allows for people who may have difficulties accessing other forms of income. They may be women who are not allowed in the public space, or queer people who cannot present themselves fully in the public space. And through the internet is where they're able to do their work, to present their work. And it's unfortunate if that then becomes another place of oppression and exploitation. So another place Afrofeminism and digital art need to overlap is in teaching people how to protect themselves economically. Yes, so you need to learn financial management, you need to learn about intellectual property protections before you put your art out there so that you can get the maximum benefit. So to close, the flexibility of digital art is exciting for us because it breaks down a lot of barriers of accessibilities for the audience. So it's very simple to recommend a short clip. It's simpler to recommend to text around a GIF. I know. You see, we need to bridge these gaps, come together. it's very easy to send me a short translated film in French that I would never have come across, but I'll probably get it, in my WhatsApp. And these opportunities to teach, it becomes sort of a form of anthropology, an ethnography. You can really enter spaces and communities that you had never been in before, and that maybe you would not have sat through a 2-hour documentary or have gotten the opportunity to travel there. So I consider it a great way for us to get away from the things that we like and we know, but experience new things and get a taste for things and understand that, okay, we're not that different. This joke is funny in... not Belgian. That doesn't sound right. Belgian? Belgian French? Okay. Yeah, so this joke, it makes sense wherever it comes from in the world. Everyone from wherever they are, when they get shot, they bleed. People have trouble with their mothers-in-law. Wherever, in the world you come from, there's these similarities, these things that make sense to us, and then the little nuances and edges of where we differ is what makes them interesting. We're stronger together. We're better together. Afrofeminism, digital art. We love them because they're linked, they're intertwined, they're intersectional, and art brings theory. It gives theory passion, it gives theory color, it gives theory the ability to spread and be absorbed and loved. And theory grounds art in a way that makes it acceptable to people who want it to be serious. It makes it part of knowledge creation, and it's settled into both the history of art and the history of power. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Thank you. Did I?
I speak in French. Sorry. Chef Shumba, that's your turn. Some words about you, but as I said, you have a presentation on la feuille de salle. Alors, Chef Shumba est artiste, activiste, chercheuse, enseignante et commissaire. En 2008, elle cofonde la plateforme numérique collective African Digital Art, que je vous invite bien entendu à aller voir et à revenir et revoir régulièrement parce qu'elle est constamment nourrie et réactualisée. Donc, à partir de Nairobi, parfois de Johannesburg, d'Afrique du Sud, Chef Shumba mène une veille constante sur les créations numériques réalisées en Afrique ou sur l'Afrique. C'est une immense bibliothèque numérique qui est en train de se constituer, qui va de l'illustration aux images générées par ordinateur, en passant par l'animation, les jeux vidéo, la 3D, la pop culture. Classée par Forbes parmi les 20 jeunes leaders féminines les plus puissantes en Afrique et par le Guardian dans le top 25 des femmes africaines les plus brillantes, Chef Shumba parcourt le monde pour promouvoir la croissance, la connaissance, de la technologie créative en Afrique. Bon, merci et je te laisse la parole.
Merci. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I feel so honored to be here and so honored that we started this entire conversation with that film because that was my life in Europe. I would come to Europe and give talks about African digital art, and some of the questions that I would get would be like, wow, they have electricity there? Like, that's incredible. Like, wow. I got so frustrated trying to have conversations that I decided I'm going to tell everybody, if you don't, you have Google. So if you don't start from Google, then I don't want to come. So I haven't been in Europe for 3 years. So the reason why I'm back to Europe is because of this an invitation to have a discussion about Afro-cyber feminism, and to also discuss a little bit more about my work and also the time that we're living in. So we're living in an extraordinary time. I know every generation feels like they're living in an extraordinary time, but statistically, we're living in an extraordinary time. And so we have extraordinary opportunities to be great or to be the worst. It's going either way. So I want to give a little bit introduction about who I am rather than all of these accolades that make me sound very impressive. But at the heart of everything, I'm a nerd. I just want you to know I'm a girl. I'm a digital girl. I'm very comfortable behind a computer and not in this space. So, yes. So Afro-cyber feminism. So my name is Chepchumba. I'm from Kenya, and I'm a digital artist. I've wanted to be I started digital arts because I actually wanted to be a philosopher. I would read all these books about philosophers, and I think they're all crazy. Like Aristotle was a maniac. All these people who were trying to answer these questions about where we're living and how we're living. I never related to anything that they said. I never connected to them. So I decided at a very young age, I declared to my father, I will be a philosopher. To which he's like, okay. So when I went to study in a very cold place in America called Massachusetts, and I froze to death. And during this time, I was supposed to be reading a lot of books, really old books. But I found myself crawling into the dark spaces, and these were the computer labs. So rather than writing my 15-page paper, I was lurking behind screens. So very quickly, by accident, I discovered if I submit this work that I'm playing around, I get really good grades because my professors were so inept with technology that when I would submit a 30-second animation explaining psychology of races in America, they were like extremely impressed. They're like, "Wow, this is everything," and I was like, "Okay." So digital art found me, and I made a home in digital art, mainly because it allowed me to become this mad scientist that I still believe I kind of am. Digital art allowed me to fabricate crazy ideas and make them into reality. Like me looking amazing over Nairobi, squashing it like the 50-foot woman. Or just even emotionally speaking out against things. Digital art allowed me to really express myself in such a quick way. And I was making this work before we could actually 3D print and generate. So I've actually seen the development and potential of digital art and digital technology for a while. So unfortunately, when I was developing my craft, I came to there were very few spaces that accommodated somebody like myself. And I remember I only wanted to do an animation about African animation, and I wanted to do this beautiful thing. I never did it. In my head, it's gorgeous idea. But the problem was when I was trying to explain to my professors and explain to other people about African digital art, they would just look at me blankly and say, "My friend, digital art in Africa does not exist." So this is back in the day, only 10 years ago, but in internet things, I'm 100 years old. And when you would do any sort of visual Google search of Africa, you saw the Lion King font, you saw poverty, you saw war, and then Lion King characters. And then you'd also, like if I Googled Lion King, African colors, I would just see brown, oranges, sunsets, and a giraffe. So this vexed me. This vexed me to no end. So I decided, out of just pure, I don't want you to think that it's a deep thing, that I actually just pure frustration, I went and I bought my first URL, and it was africandigitalart.com. So African Digital Art is a space where I've covered over 1,900 artists from Africa and the diaspora. And I've featured all sorts of projects from animation, film, photography, illustration, just everything that I found particularly interesting. When I first made my declaration of that digital art in Africa existed, I featured 8 people, and most of them were from the nest, and then I panicked. I was like, oh, I've gone around yelling at people that African digital art is something, but there's nobody online. So I had to convince many people who were digital artists but never had the language understanding that that's what they were doing to come and invade the online space just so that we could change the Google searches. So hopefully if you type African typography, you won't get the Lion King font, but I'm not making any promises. So for a while, like most African artists, first of all, you have to say the word Africa, which is already so not problematic, but weighted with so much meaning and confusion and so many things. So especially when I say it with this accent, I'm an African, it just sort of puts Africa in this like big blob that doesn't really mean anything. But Africa is an extremely complex place that we don't even necessarily understand ourselves, and I'm from there. And we're just starting to discover the incredible historical legacy of technology that Africa has, and how much contribution that we've made in actually developing this new way of communicating. We're moving into like understanding each other in telekinetic ways and in very African spiritual ways of cultural living that comes from a long history. So I always try to put this image of Africa in every slide or presentation that I do, because so much of our understanding of it is just like this. And it's actually, like I said before, that we're living in an incredible time. We're also living in a time where the world's demographic is going to flip. So by the time 2030 hits, or 2050, I think it's 2050, 40% of the world's population will be African. So we're going to be entering an African century, whether you're ready for it or not. I'm ready. I'm ready. So, yeah. So African digital art made me accidentally an archivist online. Something that I never thought I would be. I wanted to just be a digital artist, but it became my calling. And it also, in a way, became a futurist project. It engaged me into thinking and having discussions about futurism, which is quite curious, because actually I have this joke that many of us started Afro-futurism as a joke, like, oh my gosh, white people are gonna love this. Let's start saying Afro-futurism, and we're gonna be invited to things, just like the biography you've watched of my life from that film. But then I think it was also a provocation to have this discussion about the future and what it looks like. So many of my projects from now on, which I'm going to share with you, are not for you guys, unfortunately. They're for people 100 years who are going to live 100 years from now. So I'm trying to make myself seem very epic online, so that way 100 years from now, there was this queen of digital art, Chepchumba. Yeah. So that's my vision, mad scientist. I've given my secret away, but all mad scientists give their secrets away. So African digital art has become this way for us to push digital boundaries, and in many ways also has pushed my own boundaries, because I'm comfortable behind a computer. I really believe that I was made for this age where I can control my interactions with people. I can be like, oh, I'm tired of you, close this chat. Or, you know, I don't look really nice, but this filter looks amazing. So I've become I believe I was made to live in this time. But I wanted to also not live in the digital la-la land, which we were being presented in the beginning of this African innovation period. So when I was starting my website, there was this huge push of putting Africa online, or taking pictures of a lot of Maasais with mobile phones. And I have a lot of those images in my presentations. But there was this whole gold rush towards this digital age. But many people were not necessarily examining or asking what exactly it was. But many people just saw, if we just give African cell phones, AIDS will go away, malaria will go away, poverty will go away. And I was like, hey, it's not about the tools. It's about what's in our heads and how we're using this technology. So African Digital Art moved away from just being an online website where I featured people, but it became this project where I was engaging with artists and creatives to really take up space and be in the conversation about what exactly is happening in terms of the culture of technology that we're experiencing. So, these are some of the, this is an old thing. So these are some of the, I kept on changing the categories of my website, like what is digital art? And it was such a pleasure to see it coming from only film and music to exploding to graphic design, to illustration, to typography, to branding, and now into interactive art, now into people designing algorithms, designing cities, and inviting creatives to take part of that. So not African digital art, but digital art has expanded and become this humongous thing that I try to tell my parents because they keep asking me, like, are you sure about this? And I'm trying to say, digital art is a thing, you know? So hopefully this presentation will help me convince them that my work is legitimate. Yeah. So one of the greatest pleasures of working in this space, like I said, is that you're able to render your imagination and transform it into something that's actually tangible. And one of the things that I became witness to by curating African digital art is that there were more people who felt that they had the ability to actually finally speak for themselves. It's only 10 years ago that Africans were still screaming, hello, that's not me. That's not my story. That's not how I live. That's not where I am. That's not how I think. I don't know who made this. I don't know. I don't speak Hakuna Matata, squash banana. I don't know anybody about the Lion King. We don't have giraffes here. So like those were the kind of things that we were trying to address as an entire continent. Imagine for over 100 years of being spoken about or being spoken for and not having the ability to speak for yourself. So digital art became the space where people felt like, hey, if I'm going to make a character, I want the characters to look like me, my uncles, my aunts, my nieces, my nephews, and people in my family to represent the things that I'm going through, to represent and to actually start speaking for myself. So one of the things that you learn about Kenyans is that we love to brag about how great we are, because we are. And one of the things that you also know about Kenyans, I don't know if you know about Kenyans, is that we're extremely visible online. We're early adopters. We kind of like took to Twitter like it was water. We took down CNN. We took down BBC. We took down all these people who were representing Africa in a way that we didn't feel like was representing ourselves. And this is the space where many digital artists slowly found a way to speak about their stories. So we're here. Other than these, all of these slides from now on, you're going to see are from artists that are represented on AfricanDigitalArt.com. My plug. You can see. I'm warning you. You go on there and you will spend hours. I've designed it that way. Mastermind. Yeah. So before we get to this whole topic of Afro-cyber feminism, I've made a lot of jokes. I've become endearing to you. So now I can have my soapbox moment and speak about things that I think that are important. So in order to contextualize this discussion, so this is hashtag side note before we get into things. Before we have a discussion about Afro-cyber feminism, I want to talk about some problems that we're having because of our digital culture. Number one, we have forgotten that words actually mean things. So when we say words are extremely powerful. Words can take down, hashtag me too, words can take down institutions, can take down societies, but they also can bring things up and bring things to the imagination and bring things to life. So even the word Afro-cyber feminism is something now new. It's something some people can organize conferences, events, exhibitions. It actually can take root in people's imaginations. So like, let's never forget that words mean things. And even on the internet, like remember that words are not something very, very passable. They actually can take effect. And number two, the second thing also in the side note section is that I think maybe it's 2005, we all collectively decided to stop reading. we decided rather than read, we were just going to comment on what somebody else has commented. I have a lot of dinner conversations where I'm trying to have an argument with you about something, and then 2 minutes later I realize, oh, you're just commenting the first sentences that you saw on Facebook. We're not actually you haven't read, you don't read. So one of the things I implore you is to read. Like, read first. It's gonna feel like exercise. It's gonna feel like jogging. It's gonna hurt a lot. You want to Google every word. You want to do everything else but read. But reading is so incredibly important because it activates your imagination, and it's something that I still think for this century is still worth having, especially as we're going into algorithms and as more and more people are fighting for the space in between your ears. Basically, there's a war for your attention and for your mind. So please keep reading and read widely. And then the last thing is, how many of you guys are avid sender of memes or GIFs or GIFs? How many of you love sending GIFs? You are the group's GIF person, yeah. 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 So that's actually an incredible thing. So I would implore you, rather than just be people who send memes, start making them. Start becoming your own meme generator. Like, start thinking about what can I spread virally? What kind of ideas can I do it? I learned that this is an important skill because I was being bombarded by my mom's Bible quotes. Every other day, my mother would be like, a woman is quiet, beautiful, respectful, worthy. And I was like, Mom, but this is important. This is to make a point, actually. It's important because I'm concerned that we are just consuming things and not necessarily participating in an active way. So I feel like one of the most powerful things I've been seeing on the internet is this amazing way that we've translated humor and satire and creativity through memes. And I hope that I can encourage you guys to be digital artists and actually become meme generators. So off the side note, let's go back to Afro-cyber feminism. So I was trying to think of what Afro-cyber feminism is. And I start with a Google image search, and then I can't think. Yeah, I always think about the image. So I was trying to think of what exactly Afro-cyber. I listen to really great things, really great topics, lectures, and try to place myself in this discussion of Afro-cyber feminism. So rather than trying to define it, I'm going to give you tips of what I think Afro-cyber feminism can be. And then you guys can agree or disagree, or like we can all participate in informing this discussion, not only here, but also as we like move on through life. So one of the things that I think that Afro-cyber feminism has and this is a participatory thing for everybody, is to really dedicate ourselves to design computers that reflect the African mind. Unfortunately, even from my keyboard, from my user interface, from everything that I'm doing, all these weird actions that I'm doing, I have to put myself in a mind of somebody who developed this technology in Palo Alto. Is it Cupertino, California? And I met those guys. They're weird. I have to sort of like put whatever is in my mind through this machine to compute and come out. So I think that we as people, like there's no difference between us and Steve Jobs and all those things. We have better fashion choices, I think. That's the big difference. But we can dedicate ourselves to design more computers and more software and more programming, more algorithms that reflect our culture and also the way that we think. I think that's a very Afro-cyber feminist thing to do. The next thing I would suggest is also to be language generators, to offer different ways of communicating, whether it be through GIFs or be through, like I said, suggested meme generators, or even translation, even translating. There's a crazy statistic that 80% or 70% of the internet is in English. Still. Like, it's the World Wide Web. And still, the majority of the web is in English. This should not be okay. We should be developing new languages and preserving other languages as well. The next thing is to also create centers for myth making. Spaces where we can implore people to think of new paradigms that are not Republican versus Democrat, America versus the rest of the world, men versus women, people who like technology, removing all nuances by making things so binary. Rather, that we should be making centers or spaces where we're encouraging people to actually create myths about this time, because it's going to be a very significant time. Like, even in your own life, you have now a tool that you can publish to the whole entire world and create a world of you can create a perception of what your life is. And unfortunately, most people are actually looking and adopting their life according to what you're reflecting, you know? So I think a lot of people, I think the way that we've done it is not very constructive, because we've tried to impress other people, right? Rather than speak honestly about what's going on. So the internet has become an incredibly lonely space where people feel like they're constantly trying to catch up to how other people are doing. So I would implore you, if you have an Instagram account, think of it as your own center for myth making. Like, what kind of myths can you be part of? What kind of myths can you create? What kind of myths can you bring back that you feel like the world needs as well? I think that's a very Afro-cyber feminism thing to do. Also, another thing that we need to do is also make more tools for collaborative healing. We've seen so much happen in the past year of many paradigms being taken down, many monsters being taken down, many institutions that have not been served taken down. A lot of anger, a lot of upset, a lot of rage has come from that. But now it's also a time to, as many of us are bringing down institutions and languages through this new communication device, which is the internet, we should also be using this space as thinking, how can we help other people heal from all of the damage that's been done, from all of the way institutions have been run for a while? Does that make sense? Everybody got quiet. I don't know if it's because I'm making sense or you're like, what is happening? It's making sense. Okay. Also, something about this, maybe I'll say it later. And then also by reading, by engaging in creative arts, by thinking about speculative fictions, about things that are going to happen beyond yourself, you should be exercising yourself in becoming an imagination and a reality generator. Like, how can you tend to your imagination and then make that possible? Most of us are not tending to our imaginations. We're just consuming whatever we see, whatever is cool. It's Game of Thrones season 15,000. And we're just consuming that, putting it in our head, putting more junk in our head, not being discerning about what's going on in terms of how our imagination is running. And we should be taking much more care of that. That's how we can be really cool Afro-cyber feminists. And then lastly is also, because we're living in an incredible time, I implore all of you to be part of this archival army where you see great work, or if you're producing great work, make sure that it's going to exist somehow in the World Wide Web, and it's going to be accessible to many other people across the world, because I'm still mourning the death of the internet, because I feel like the internet has died somehow. The internet used to be this crazy place with many, many rooms with a lot of freaky people behind those rooms. The chat rooms where anybody could be anything. You could be a giraffe. You could be anything that you wanted. But now sort of we're in Facebook, Netflix, Instagram, WhatsApp. That's all the internet spaces that we are. So let's be part of places that we can create and generate, and then also archive our work for future generations. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about also when it comes to Afro-cyber feminism is that Afro-cyber feminism is not some abstraction. It's not something abstract. It's not just a hashtag. It's something that also translates very really into the lives of women. As I can speak personally about this, as I've been seeing a lot of people who have been participating in the Me Too movement speak out and using social media as a tool to speak out. There's been also a violence, a backlash against them. So I'm noticing more and more that many people are becoming violent in their comments and then translating this violence into real life. So we have responsibility not to just be casual observers of these movements that are happening or just sitting behind, you know, posturing behind comment sections, but we actually have to take responsibility to some of the violence that many women are facing after speaking out against like terrible men. And unfortunately, this looks very different in Africa than it does in European spaces. I'm seeing a lot of women in cyber platforms actually getting violently attacked and even murdered for the things that they're saying online. And that should not be something that we're going to be okay with if we're dedicating ourselves to using online spaces to cause a sort of revolution, you know? Does that make sense? Yes? Amen? Yeah, no. Hey, yeah. So rather than being a preacher and just saying, these are the ways that I'm practicing, and I want to close with this in my own work and life, one of the things that I started is a podcast called Future Lab Africa, Future Archives, and Future Lab Africa is a podcast where I'm going to be interviewing technologists, musicians, philosophers, people like yourselves, to talk about this time, but this is going to be a podcast that my audience is going to be people from 100 years from now, not people from today. So it's in a way, it's an audio time capsule. So that's one of the projects that I'm working on. Sorry, time, right? Okay, kind of. I'm fast forwarding, I'm almost end. Another thing that I've been working on is doing collaborative spaces, getting more people to, and unfortunately, it's to travel between Nairobi and to Ghana costs more for me than to travel from Nairobi to Brussels, still 2018. So a lot of the work that I do is actually just have African artists in a room together and be like, hey, I'm from Senegal. Hey, me too. Hey, let's make stuff. Cool. So a lot of the work that I do is creating opportunities for that. And then my other legacy project is I opened up a school with my mom, a school for girls dedicated to art, technology, and design. It's in the middle of rural Kenya. It's a very radical project that has made me cry a lot, but it's something that's important. And this is education for young women as they enter into the world in a practical way. So we teach these girls to code, but they will never, under my direction, ever code a website. We're going to make instruments, we're going to make games, we're going to make new languages and sort of using coding as a new way for inventing new realities. And then, and I mentioned Future Lab Africa. So that is all. Yeah, so thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Pchumba. It's une feuille de route. How do you say feuille de route? A road map for Afro-cyber feminism. So I thank you deeply for this concept. Oui, alors now je vais donner la parole à Marion. Alors une des spécificités de notre soirée, dont on est aussi également très fiers, c'est de réunir la partie ouest de l'Afrique, du continent, et avec la partie est du continent, avec peut-être une réduction des langues, mais elles sont encore valides, mais on va les exploser bien vite avec l'afro-cyberféminisme, du francophone et de l'anglophone, mais en tout cas de ces deux régions de l'Afrique. Donc, notre troisième invitée, Marion-Louis Rancilla, qui est donc cofondatrice et directrice de Cœur Tiosan à Dakar, donc en 2002, avec son époux, François Silla. Il crée ce centre d'art dédié aux technologies numériques et à l'art, spécialement à l'art numérique et à l'art des médias. En 2002 donc, Et la spécificité de Kertiosan, ça va être d'abord d'être fidèle à l'utopie d'Internet, qui était de apprendre en faisant, innover à la frontière, et cette idée que a défendue aussi beaucoup Cheb Shumba, qu'on peut tous le faire, on doit juste s'y mettre, ou on doit juste donner les conditions d'accès pour le faire. Et petit à petit, Kertiosan est devenu un centre à partir de Dakar qui rayonne internationalement, mais n'a jamais voulu sortir de la première mission qu'elle s'était donnée aussi, qui était d'être en lien avec les personnes autour et d'être très ancrée dans la vie du quartier. Voilà. Donc je te laisse la parole.
Je te laisse passer, s'il te plaît. Donc bonjour, merci à BOZAR, merci pour l'invitation, à Yoko, à Oulimata. Donc c'est vrai que je vais parler ce soir, c'est une autre partie, l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Malheureusement, on n'a pas toujours l'occasion de connecter, d'échanger entre Afrique francophone et anglophone, mais on y travaille, en tout cas, grâce à des réseaux. Et puis peut-être avec un autre aspect aussi complémentaire de l'art numérique, en fait, parce qu'on travaille aussi. Bon. Donc je vais raconter un peu l'histoire de ce qu'on fait. Donc c'est un centre, comme l'a dit Oulimata, qu'on a créé avec mon mari dans une villa privée où mon mari a grandi, donc d'où l'ancrage dans le quartier en 2002. C'est pas grave. En 2002, avec le soutien de la Fondation Daniel Langlois à Montréal pour l'art, la science et les nouvelles technologies, en partant du constat que un peu partout dans les documentaires, les biennales, il y avait de l'art numérique en Europe ou aux États-Unis, et qu'il y avait très peu d'artistes africains présents, alors qu'à Dakar, au Sénégal, il y a énormément de choses au niveau de la création. Il y a des biennales de danse, biennales des arts, et très peu d'espace pour créer et avoir accès au numérique. Donc le projet est né de ce constat. Et l'envie alors Dakar a toujours été en Afrique de l'Ouest une ville où l'internet était déjà très accessible. Ça a beaucoup changé depuis 2002, mais il y avait l'internet, des cybercafés, mais la plupart des jeunes et des personnes étaient des consommateurs d'internet, donc c'était aussi les artistes et les jeunes à être aussi des créateurs. Donc on a commencé et tout prend du temps, je dirais, en proposant des ateliers, invitant des artistes numériques à venir travailler avec d'autres artistes. Alors pour nous, l'art numérique, c'est aussi croiser des disciplines, mélanger, c'est l'occasion de travailler tout ce qui est art interactif aussi. On a travaillé avec des réseaux en Finlande, en Europe, en invitant des artistes, comme je vous disais, à travailler. Et très vite en travaillant sur cette question de créer du numérique depuis Dakar, donc pas spécialement proposer les mêmes choses, mais inviter les artistes, danseurs, théâtre, à travers des ateliers, à s'emparer de ces outils-là, avec un esprit de partage. Peut-être après on verra, de travailler tout de suite. On a pris une position de travailler aussi sur avec des logiciels libres et des petites technologies. Alors on peut faire du mapping avec des grandes productions, mais aussi toujours aller sur des logiciels libres comme MapMap ou inviter aussi des gens qui travaillent sur du libre avec je dirais un lieu d'expérimentation aussi, faire des ateliers, des résidences. Comme je vous disais, très vite de travailler aussi sur, puisque Dakar est déjà un espace où beaucoup de gens recyclent, font eux-mêmes les choses, donc avant d'ouvrir un Fab Lab, non, c'est très bien. Donc on s'est positionné très vite là-dessus. C'est comme ça qu'on a lancé un festival qui s'appelle Afropixel aussi, mais toujours avec un regard critique aussi sur l'Internet, sur l'arrivée d'Internet au Sénégal. Et Alors autant jusqu'en il y a très peu de temps, personne comprenait vraiment ce que c'était justement l'art numérique. Autant aujourd'hui, on parle numérique, d'Afrique, d'innovation. Donc c'est bien de se positionner et de voir pourquoi. Et comme le disait Oulimata, on a toujours travaillé avec le quartier, avec des artistes. Tous les ateliers qu'on fait, on a cette, je dirais, cette aptitude à mélanger des publics très différents, à faire travailler des filles d'un centre social avec des artistes, avec des codeurs, des développeurs, faire des ateliers autour des plantes, du numérique, faire des panneaux solaires. Donc là, il y a un peu des images de toutes les époques, voilà, des pratiques, la sérigraphie, mais travailler les typographies open source, voilà, par rapport à un regard sur la ville, le textile numérique. On a beaucoup travaillé, pas mal ici avec un collectif qui s'appelle Constante, qui est venu faire des workshops. Donc, voilà, et toujours présenter ça aussi, partager avec les publics autour de... Un peu plus vite. Toujours partager avec les publics et les audiences autour de nous. Voilà. Donc, on essaie toujours de relier les technologies aussi à différents aspects de la société, comme je disais, et c'est dans ce sens-là qu'on a ouvert en 2012. On est allé plus loin, puisque les logiciels libres sont des biens communs. On a eu toute une réflexion sur les biens communs, et puis parce que le Curtiosan est un espace où beaucoup de gens viennent, partagent leur savoir, on a créé une école des communs, voilà, pour penser les communs depuis le Sénégal, dans notre quartier, avoir une réflexion là-dessus, autour d'un jardin partagé qu'on a mis en œuvre avec un artiste, et un Fab Lab avec voilà, c'est comme une sculpture vivante qu'on a mis en place avec les habitants du quartier, tout un travail voilà, sur un espace qui était détérioré, et en y animant des ateliers avec les communautés, avec le centre social, et un Fab Lab derrière ça. Voilà, et c'est dans ce cadre-là, autour du Fab Lab, on a une approche, enfin, il y avait toute une réflexion, pourquoi un Fab Lab à Dakar où les gens sont déjà, comme je disais, dans le recyclage, dans le do-it-yourself. Donc voilà. Aujourd'hui, on travaille avec des designers, avec des codeurs, on peut faire des ateliers sur le design génératif, mais des choses, voilà, différents projets autour du textile numérique, comme je l'ai dit, avec Constante. Voilà, donc on a aussi une sorte d'incubateur. Voilà. Voilà. Et donc, pour revenir voilà, on se définit pas comme un espace féministe. Pareil, quand j'ai reçu l'invitation, j'étais un peu... mais de fait, il y a toujours, dans l'équipe, il y a beaucoup de filles dans l'équipe de Curtiosan. Et le monde des technologies, c'est même ici, partout, c'est un monde qui est quand même très macho, très masculin. Et voilà, donc... on a toujours essayé de passer de donner maximum dans nos ateliers la place aux femmes, ingénieurs, artistes, dans les débats, voilà, de toujours, quand on le pouvait, là, il y a invité aussi des collectifs de filles sur Internet au Mali, voilà, à travailler la web télé, la réalité virtuelle. Là, on a invité avec Fakou Kezi, voilà, des artistes sud-africains à venir former des jeunes Sénégalais. Et donc toujours on travaille beaucoup avec un centre social derrière mais voilà, de donner une place, c'est pas toujours facile, mais donner une place aux femmes dans les activités qu'on met en œuvre. Voilà, à des artistes femmes aussi, leur permettre de venir, d'expérimenter. Donc voilà, certains artistes, des artistes Mappin, Lalia Gaye, Tabitha Razer, des artistes de Dakar, mais aussi des curateurs comme Oulimata, Sylviane Diop. Et voilà, d'où la difficulté, parce que le Sénégal, bon, c'est peut-être... voilà. D'où l'importance pour nous aussi de travailler beaucoup avec les jeunes publics. On se rend compte que même si Sénégal est, voilà, en termes de parité, ça reste quand même plus difficile, même si les femmes sont super dynamiques et tout, c'est quand même difficile, et il faut armer les femmes, et avant tout les jeunes filles, voilà, en termes de code. Donc on travaille beaucoup aussi dans les écoles, autour du jardin. Pour nous, c'est vraiment travailler avec les jeunes publics. Voilà.
Merci beaucoup. Alors... Donc, merci pour cette constellation d'afroféministes. Je vais en rajouter, en essayant d'être le plus rapide possible, 3 autres qui sont aussi qui croisent justement cette démarche, en tout cas féminine, si elle ne revendique pas de féminisme, en tout cas pour certaines d'entre elles, et art numérique. Alors, donc la première, Tabitha Razer, que tu connais bien, Chef Chumba. Donc franco-guyano-danoise, Tabitha Razer fait partie de la génération née à la fin des années 1980 et dont la formation artistique est marquée par l'omniprésence de l'Internet. Elle, en 2014, justement pour un festival, pour une exposition qui s'appelle Post-African Future, que vous avez, sur lesquelles vous avez travaillé avec Tegan Prisdo, dont je vais parler après, elle réalise Afro-cyber Resistance. Et c'est une vidéo qui va vite devenir virale. Et pourquoi? Parce qu'en fait, elle a un message très spécifique. Que dit-elle? Elle dit l'Internet a porté à ses origines l'utopie d'un monde réconcilié par la technologie, plus démocratique et plus égalitaire, qui abolirait les différences d'âge, de couleur, de genre et de classe. Alors que le processus de massification du réseau s'accélère, il faut de façon urgente déconstruire cette mythologie. Car, en réalité, l'Occident contrôle tous les rouages du réseau, les noms de domaine, les contenus, les moteurs de recherche, la collecte, l'usage des datas. L'Afrique est prise dans une culture numérique occidentale, hégémonique et néocolonialiste. C'est de cette relation asymétrique qu'il s'agit de sortir en organisant depuis les Suds une décolonisation du net, une cyber-résistance. Nice word. So. Dans la vidéo qui va suivre, donc Tabitha Razer met aussi ses vidéos en ligne et ça, elle y tient beaucoup. Donc je vous invite aussi à aller les voir. Là, il y aura vraiment 3 minutes d'une vidéo qui dure 18 minutes, qui s'appelle Deep Down Tidal et qui date de 2007. Elle navigue dans l'océan comme si celui-ci était un interface qui articule à la fois l'histoire de l'Afrique et de sa diaspora et l'histoire des technologies. Elle établit un parallèle entre les routes commerciales coloniales, justement, et elle montre comment le circuit des câbles de fibres optiques suit exactement le circuit des routes coloniales. Et ces circuits qui forment l'architecture d'Internet sont donc calqués sur un passé colonial. Alors, je crois qu'il faut lancer la vidéo, c'est ça ? C'est pas celle-ci.
Hello, my friend. I'm good, and you? Oh, actually, I'm not good. Yes, it's this internet thing, this Facebook thing, yes, you know. No, my friend, it's like I've posted something about the white people saying that they should give our land back, you know. Yes. And they've banned me from Facebook. Can you believe that? Idiot or something like that, I don't know. This is racism on a serious note. This is really not good. It's like they are not treating us equally. They are not treating us like human beings. Oh, my friend, you know this data thing, they really need to follow, you know. Yes, because we are wasting our money buying data instead of buying cold drink and a dress or a bread or something like that, you know.
Electronic colonialism is the domination and control of digital technologies by the West to maintain and expand their hegemonic power over the rest of the world. Salvador warned us in 1995 when he wrote, "The West desperately needs new places to conquer, when they do not actually exist, they must be created. Enter cyberspace. Electronic colonialism is one of the many ways in which colonial domination survived after its defeat. While settler colonialism was the policy and practice of acquiring, controlling, occupying, and economically exploiting land and labor, which by the way is still a thing, it's just now called capitalism. Electronic colonialism seeks to influence and control the mind through the digital device. It also operates by sustaining the dependency of former colonized countries on the West by the importation of hardware, software, engineers, technicians, and information protocols. This creates a set of foreign norms, values, and expectations that alter and marginalize local cultures, languages, habits, values, and lifestyles in favor of Eurocentric knowledge. Many countries in the global south have become electronic colonies that are force-fed information generated by the Western world. Under the guise of globalization, the information revolution has become a vehicle for cultural westernization.
Merci. Alors, Tabitha Rezer investit aussi la question du corps, et puis spécialement l'histoire du corps des femmes noires dans l'avancement des technologies et des sciences modernes, notamment un de ses travaux qui s'appelle Sugar Worldom, où elle travaille justement sur les rapports entre les femmes des corps noirs et la façon dont elles ont été utilisées dans la science. Voilà. Donc, l'autre artiste... voilà, pardon, je vous ai pas montré ces images. L'autre artiste à laquelle je pensais et qui a fait aussi un travail qui est très important, c'est donc Milumbe Mbe, en 2014 aussi, en Zambie cette fois. Donc l'artiste multimédia Milumbe Mbe met en lumière la pénurie d'héroïnes noires, féminines et queer dans l'univers de la science-fiction. Et elle crée Anania, une héroïne de 17 ans, noire, homosexuelle et résistante. Elle appartient à l'armée de restauration de la féminité et lutte contre le gouvernement qui favorise la fabrication de robots sexuels pour remplacer les femmes. En effet, dans un futur proche, le futur d'Anania, la femme humaine complexe, variée et imprévisible est considérée comme obsolète et destinée à être remplacée et abattue. Ce premier travail prend la forme d'une bande dessinée numérique et va évoluer vers la présence en ligne grâce à un blog et à YouTube, avec une série qui va s'appeler plus tard, en tout cas qui s'appelle maintenant Anania Calling 2100 to Mainland Earth, ou dans l'espace en 2100, et elle va trouver les moyens via un blog WordPress et YouTube de communiquer, d'entrer en communication avec nous. On peut lancer pareil une vidéo qu'on trouve sur YouTube. Et pour terminer, donc deux grandes figures aussi de l'afro-cyberféminisme. Donc Tegan Bristow, alter ego de Chef Chumba à Johannesburg, artiste, commissaire, chercheuse, qui travaille énormément sur, d'abord, qui veut absolument déconstruire l'idée que sur le continent africain, il y a une culture des technologies, et qui travaille justement sur un travail de recherche pour nous faire comprendre que chaque pays a un rapport à la technologie qui est culturel, et qu'il s'agit de le chercher et de le comprendre, et qui a aussi investi ce qu'on appelle les algorithmes vernaculaires, l'ethnomathématique, et qui essaye de comprendre à la fois comment est-ce qu'on peut apprendre, enseigner le code à partir des sciences et des savoirs vernaculaires africains, et aussi comment est-ce qu'on peut respecter toutes les dimensions des sciences en Afrique, qui ont articulé le rationnel et l'irrationnel, contrairement à ce que nous avait dit qu'il était possible de faire. Et enfin, Célie Rabican, qui de Dakar émane sur le reste du globe, donc jeune femme styliste, écrivaine, réalisatrice, qui a donc fait toute une série autour de représentations futuristes, mettant en scène des insectes, des mondes absolument incroyables, et qui travaille énormément sur les potentiels de la VIA et la façon de travailler collectivement sur le continent. Voilà, c'était quelques consoeurs que nous avons convoqués avec nous. Donc maintenant, on va peut-être, il nous reste une demi-heure, 20h40, 21h40, 22h40. Oui. Donc il nous reste un temps de discussion avec vous. Comment est-ce qu'on procède? Est-ce qu'il y a oui, est-ce qu'il y a un micro qui circule dans la salle? Je propose donc Ayoko propose qu'on prenne une série de 5 questions déjà.
Bonsoir, good evening. Merci à vous de votre présence, merci à vous de vos interventions. Toutes les interventions étaient intéressantes. Thank you for coming tonight. It's really a pleasure to meet you, and thank you so much for the experience you share with us. I have a question for the three of you. Actually, what was the response of the government for your project, each of you, please? Of your own government, the government of Kenya and the government of Senegal. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the three of us. I'm French, so sorry if I've done some mistakes in English. First, you didn't define Afrofeminism. What was Afrofeminism for each of you? So I would like, if you want to redefine or define what is Afrofeminism digital art for each one of you. And my second question is for you. Excuse me, Jepchumba. You said us to read, but what are your recommendations? For example, what can we read about, I don't know, Afrofeminism or digital arts in Africa? Thanks.
I just wanted to know, because for me, you're talking about digital art is strongly linked to open source to my point of view, and there's only Marion talked about it. I don't know if it was evident for the rest of you, or it's just it's not part of your work and philosophy.
Hello. Good evening. Thank you very much for your intervention. It was very fascinating. I just have a question about when you're speaking about the West, because you're always saying shouldn't speak about Africa as a whole, which is absolutely true, I think. But basically, you're doing the same also with the West, and it struck me. The video about the internet struck me quite a lot, because, for instance, when you speak about the West domination on the internet, it's rather the US domination on the web. Like, for instance, managing domains and stuff. And voilà, so for me it was a bit...
Last one for the first, no? La prochaine fois? So, first question, the reception from the government of each of your countries.
Ça marche. Pour avec l'État sénégalais, depuis qu'on a commencé, on a toujours essayé on a commencé par demander leur soutien, donc ils nous identifient, mais les ministères de la culture, donc celui qui nous concernerait au début le plus, ça change régulièrement de ministre, et malheureusement, il n'y a pas... Voilà, je dis déjà au début, c'était l'art numérique, qu'est-ce que c'est? Il y a eu tout un débat, même dans la Biennale de Dakar. Sylviane Diop avait essayé de mettre Dakar Lab, un laboratoire, donc c'était très controversé. Maintenant, avec le vidéo mapping qui devient, on a fait des performances à l'UNESCO à Paris, donc pour eux, ça parle autant que des discours, mais en attendant, ça ne suit pas. À l'école des beaux-arts, c'est les Coréens qui viennent d'équiper l'école des beaux-arts, et il commence juste à y avoir des cours basiques de logiciels propriétaires. Donc voilà. Et puis après, on reçoit régulièrement des visites. Aujourd'hui, on parle d'innovation. Il y a la nouvelle ville de Diamniadio. On parle de Smart City. Donc tout ce qu'on fait, ils connaissent. On travaille. Ce qu'on fait, ça touche des fois le ministère de l'innovation sociale. On travaille, voilà, l'artisanat. Mais malgré tout, ça reste dans les discours. Maintenant, on parle d'innovation, mais ça suit pas, malheureusement. Donc on compte pas sur eux. Et je pourrais dire que depuis plus de 15 ans qu'on a commencé, on n'a jamais reçu de soutien du ministère.
Il y a eu un plan Dakar Émergence ou Sénégal Émergence, mais est-ce qu'il y avait quelque chose sur le numérique?
Oui, mais on continue, ils viennent nous voir, ils veulent ouvrir des Fab Labs, il y a tout un discours, mais c'est très politique. Je veux dire, ça ne suit pas dans les actes. Voilà. Malheureusement, maintenant, il y a un secteur privé, il y a des écoles privées, voilà.
Well, I guess the question I have before I answer that question is what you mean by our project. Do you mean the collective, or do you mean our specific parts of work? Okay, so I guess that's directly in relation to the Stories of Our Lives project. I can't even say that the government banned us. It's a very person-based attack, sort of. There's a gentleman who shall remain unnamed, who works at the Kenya Film Classification Board, and he has very strong stances on his form of morality, and he's very anti-homosexual. So it was his decision to ban the film from being screened locally. The government itself really didn't get involved. There's been another queer film that came out of Kenya this year called Rafiki. It was also banned for similar reasons, saying that the script that was submitted differed from the actual film that was produced by the same gentleman. That case went to court, and it was allowed to be screened for a week, and so that it could be considered for Oscar nomination. And subsequently, there's going to be a second court case to allow the ban to be lifted in totality. So I guess at that level, that's where the government is getting involved. In general, the government doesn't care about our work as a collective. They celebrate when we are celebrated, particularly in foreign spaces, but they don't particularly offer support or get in our way. Yeah. I don't know if Jumba's experience is quite similar. They generally stay out of our way.
Alors, definition of Afrofeminism. Vous avez demandé Afrofeminism and not Afro-cyber feminism. Afrofeminism. Who wants to answer?
I can answer on behalf of everybody. You can define it. Thank you. Yes, next question.
Next question. A book about Afro-cyber feminism.
Books.
No, a book. Just recommendation.
If you haven't read Octavia Butler, I don't know what's wrong with you. If you haven't read, I don't know. It's just read. Even if it's a newspaper, I can make so many recommendations for you, and I think I can provide them for you. But there's amazing science fiction writer Nendi. Yeah, is it Nendi? Yeah, yes. She's also is writing for Black Panther series, I think, as well. And she touches a lot of her work touches on imagining futures, especially within the feminist perspective. Other recommendations that I can, any books from the past, anything about speculative fiction. It really depends, but anything at this point I'm happy with. Even Calvin and Hobbes is fine because people are not reading at all. They're just reading Instagram comments. I wanted to follow up with that question about the West, and because that hit a nerve a little bit. Not in a bad way, but in an interesting way. I think that we are trapped in this relationship, whether we like it or not. I think that when we talk about the West in terms of like its influence on colonialism, it's something that feels very monolithic in one way. For example, let me give you a specific example. In Kenya, if you want to have any discussions like that are funded, like these kind of conversations, they're always funded by 3 European cultural institutions. They frame the discussion, they curate the discussion, they publicize this discussion, they use your works whether you want to or not. So even if we were having this event would be very, in African spaces, it wouldn't even be necessarily open to the public. It would be very much curated by specific, it feels very imposingly Western. Another thing about also the West in terms of the internet, you mentioned, which is a good observation, that a lot of the corporate power started in the United States with owning domain access, but then also that hasn't really necessarily opened up much. And the spaces that it has opened up in terms of who's producing content for the World Wide Web specifically comes from, if it's not the United States, it's Europe. We were hoping that Chinese domination would also open us to Chinese influence in the internet, but in terms of how I'm seeing people consume and observing and experiencing the internet, it is a very Western-dominated space. An example I can give you this is if a majority of people watch pornography, it's only very few that even pornography itself, which is an entire humongous internet space, is primarily dominated by Western images. Even if when you Google anything about like pregnancy related or just human woman, you will see images specifically describing things that are happening in the West. So it's not necessarily that we want to categorize like everything and let these conversations become didactic, but it's just generally the feeling as if it feels like an assault from a very specific place, especially as a creator. I hope that makes sense.
And does any one of you wants to answer about the open source possibility or use of open source technology? No, not especially you not. Okay, so we have 10 minutes left, and I'm sure that there's lots of questions, and especially you in front of me. So Three questions, and then we see if we can go further.
Yes, so thank you very much for your presentation. I listened very carefully, and actually I discovered what is Afro-cyber feminism. I would have multiple questions, but I would try to be fast. So the first one is, maybe that exists and I'm not cognizant of it. Are you aware of the way Afro-cyber feminism could also create a bridge between Africa and the Caribbean? Does Afro-cyber feminism exist in the Caribbean, exist also in Latin America, where you have black people in Peru or Colombia? Is it a thing as well? Then I would like also to react on the West thing, because it's true that the internet is dominated by white images, but the thing is, the video as we saw it, personally, it gives the impression that it's a conspiracy, a big conspiracy. There is somebody behind it trying to make the world in this way, and it's not true. It's not true. So it's a historical monopoly. It's a historical monopoly. The West was developed first, and then it broadcast its own image. But if another continent, another civilization was developed first the same way, it would have done the same process. It would have followed the same process. It's a process of domination more than a process of West, I think. But it's just my personal opinion, and I don't want to create any controversy here. And the last question I would like to ask is, masculinism was created as a way to mock feminism. But actually I read a very interesting book called The Cost of Domination. And when you are in a dominant position, you have, okay, you are privileged, but then you have the cost of being dominant, the cost of still dominating. It costs you. And in the book of Masculinism by French sociologists, it was explained that some males do not match with this idea of being dominant. They have a more feminine face, another kind of voice. They prefer male, they don't belong to this stereotype. And then, would Afro-cyber masculinism could exist one day as a legitimate thing? Thank you.
Lots of questions. And so less time to talk about that. Another?
Thank you. I'm Modine Tambwe, coordinator of the network of Afro-descendant women. Just one question for you, Sejumba, because you brought in your definition of Afro-cyber feminist, or what it could be. The first point was designing computers with African minds. And my question straightforward is that you still work in hardware and software environment that are male-dominated, male-created, male-centered. How do you visualize being disruptive to have it gendered or Afro-gendered?
Maybe Shipshumba, you answer to this question, and then we...
First of all, I think that what we're experiencing now, especially with these questions, is a really positive thing. That this discussion is an invitation to think of it further. Like we said in the beginning of our presentation, even the word Afro-cyber feminism is something that we're still investigating and discovering simultaneously along with you. So I don't want us to get into any trap of being the authors of what this word means. I think we're all participating in its definition. So I implore your voice also to continue to ask these kind of questions. I can't speak specifically to the artwork because it wasn't my artwork necessarily. But what it does do, these conversation, is invite, or this artwork is it strikes something in you that makes you ask questions or have conversation that honestly, especially in digital art spaces, have been extremely difficult. You know, especially when we're consuming digital art, we've been just obsessed with the technology and not necessarily on what the technology is doing to our culture and how we interact with each other. So I think these are all questions that we're still trying to navigate and ask. And also, we get stuck in so many paradigms that have been created. So that's why even in my discussion, in my talk, I wanted to invite a different way or perspective of thinking about it, you know? So in regards to your question about how does it feel, or what is the question about, like, how do I operate in a male-dominated field? To be honest, for the majority of my work and career, I was completely unaware that I was female. And when I'm coding or making things, I don't think about, oh, there's all male. I'm working with only male because I'm usually the only female. It's only when I now present my work that I'm saying, oh, as a woman, how do you feel about digital art? That's the only time that I've been affronted with thinking about feminism. So in regards to your question, in regards to addressing that question, I would say what we actually need as a tool or a way, a revolutionary tact, is to actually just occupy the space. Just even the presence of different voices in these spaces that are creating technologies that affect human behavior, we need to ensure that there's diversity. And unfortunately, 2018, we're still lacking in diversity. So, yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Donc, on va clore ici. Juste pour répondre rapidement, effectivement, ne jamais oublier qu'un travail d'artiste est un travail d'artiste. Il faut aller les voir en entier, ça c'est sûr. La question de qui domine, c'est aussi remonter l'histoire et peut-être remonter l'histoire du capitalisme et regarder que le capitalisme naît à un moment précis de l'histoire, à la fin du Moyen-Âge, début de la Renaissance, un endroit précis du monde. Donc je pense qu'il faut aussi, ça n'est pas que qui domine à ce moment-là. Je pense qu'il y a une histoire aussi de la domination qu'il faut revoir. Et dernière chose sur l'afro-cyber-féminisme, je vous invite aussi à regarder le site qui s'appelle afro-cyberfeminism.org, sur lequel nous avons fait à la Gaîté Lyrique une série de conférences sur la thématique. Et comme le dit Shep Shumba, c'est un mot qui résonne pour nous, dont on ne connaît pas complètement l'essence. Je pense qu'il n'y a pas de mouvement pour l'instant. Il est simplement nous demander qu'est-ce qu'on fait quand on colle ces trois termes et est-ce que ça fait quelque chose, et on est attentive à ça. Et la soirée de ce soir est dans cette lignée. Donc, merci infiniment de votre présence. Thank you so much. Really, it's a wonderful experience. Thank you, Ayoko. Thank you, BOZAR.
Thank you all.
Thank you all the women and the men that want to question themselves.
Oui, merci beaucoup. C'est vrai que voilà, c'était un premier débat. On espère effectivement poursuivre encore la discussion. Voilà, donc restez connectés aussi, voilà, à toutes les activités que nous organisons. Merci encore à nos partenaires SND, PES, L-Tourne et European Women's Lobby, et aussi à tous les techniciens, voilà, qui ont assuré cette belle soirée et le live stream. À bientôt. Au revoir.